Call the meeting to order. Ask Dr. Deegan to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Jester? Here. Ms. Ronio? Here. Ms. John?
Here.
Mr. Sharon?
Here.
Dr. Shute?
Here.
Colonel Waters?
Do we have any special guests or recognitions this evening?
None this evening.
Architect's report?
No architect's report, but I've been to Freedom several times since our last board meeting, and it is amazing, the progress. It's to the point now where it's starting to look like a building. They're actually, roofs on. You can get inside. You can. It's really taking shape very, very quickly. So I'm just impressed. It's going to be a big place. Big place.
Departmental report?
None.
Your report?
Under the report of Superintendent, under item A, I have a consideration and approval for Superintendent Deegan to meet with the appointed officials of Lawton City Government to discuss the impending half-cent sales tax initiative.
Have any questions or discussion? We'll move for approval.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Ronio?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Dr. Shute?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
For item B, Diane Brinstetter come up and discuss the district budget update regarding the general fund and levy fund.
Good evening. How
Hello.
are you all? Good. Okay. That's loud. Okay, we're going to start on page 3 of the agenda, and we're just going to give you a mid-year update as to where we are in the general fund and the levy. We'll start with the most largest adjustment that had to be made. On page 3, it says the mid-year adjustments to the carryover. Those are 2 adjustments that have actually been made to the carryover. The projected carryover at the beginning when we set the budget was at $1,632,380.39. The state aid, when we got the state aid mid-year adjustment, it got lowered by $411,000. Okay? So wasn't bad compared to what we kind of expected. We expected a little bit higher, but that was great, so we'll take that adjustment. Now, on the health insurance side of it, I actually received more money, so I was able to lower the expenses. Now, that's done based on the number of employees that we have in the district, and they do update that twice a year also. So they do that in October, and then you'll get the adjustment on the money side in December, and that's what this adjustment is. So I was actually got more money, so I was able to offset that just slightly. So the adjustment to the carryover that we originally set was only $407,000 that we actually lowered what we expect the carryover to be. That adjustment has actually been done. Now, the next 2 items on here, the general fund salaries, just wanted to kind of bring you guys up to date on kind of where we were on the salaries. When we set the budget originally, it was at $66,267,000. When we monitor that every other month, I would say. So when we monitored that on January 10th, it was slightly over what we anticipated it to be. So what we're going to do is just kind of monitor that, because one month it'll go up and one month it'll go down depending upon people retiring and new people being hired. So this adjustment has not been made yet. I just wanted to kind of keep everybody in the loop as to where we were at. And when we get closer to, March, April, that sort of time frame, we'll make the decision as to whether we actually need to take the money from the carryover or it will just be absorbed in the carryover at the end of the year on June 30th. Okay, then let's talk about our revenue projections. And let's go ahead and go to page 4, because that same figure, the $99,905 shortfall, is actually on that page, and that's where it comes from. Last year we talked a little bit about the different sources of revenue, so you kind of familiar with the layout that I have here on the different types of sources of revenue. The first box shows you what it was a year ago, what we had collected between July and January a year ago. So that's what that first box is. The second box is where we are in this fiscal year, okay? And then in the third column, it shows what we have budgeted, and then what the comparison is whether it's going to increase or decrease based on what we have budgeted at this moment in time. So it takes the budgeted column and it subtracts our projected column, which is in the second box in the middle where it says projected year-to-date current year revenue, okay? So you can see that for the most part, our projections are still online with the exception of one, which is the state land earnings. You'll recall last year we still had that same dilemma with that one source of revenue. I actually have the 12 months of it here. It's actually been very difficult to project this one. Out of the last 6 months, 2 of them have been up, 4 of them have been down. So I don't have any rhyme or reason for it, but I'm sure the State Land Commission or whatever will be able to maybe tell us a little bit more. But all we can do is monitor it and see how it goes, because being up and down every other month that's kind of unusual. So I can tell you that overall, when you put them all back together, we're only down about $99,000, which is really pretty good for 6 months into the year. So again, that adjustment has not been made yet to the carryover. We're just going to monitor it as we go. And we'll come back again, say in March, and we'll look them over again and see what we need to do. Any questions on that?
Why is it that the state land earnings,
I don't know.
what is it exactly? Is it leases from school-owned land?
Right.
State school-owned land?
Exactly.
Okay.
We kind of went over the whole description on those last year, but what I thought I would do is actually try to make a phone call to them to see if I could find out if there's going to be any rhyme or reason to it, or are they anticipating making it up? You know, last year they did that to us. At one point, they then sent a special deposit to us, which then kind of offset it, if you'll recall. So that kind of skews the figures from the prior year. So you actually have to go look at the details from one year to the next to find out. Sometimes they'll send that extra payment one month, which then will kind of balance it all out in the end at the end of the school year. So that's why we're just going to try to monitor it. But I thought I would actually give them a call and see kind of what their thinking was as to why it's gone up and down the way it has every month for the last 6
I would
months.
suspect it has to do with collection. When
That's
they
true.
collect it.
Yeah, kind of. But for the most part, all of the other ones have been pretty much on target and actually been up. So that's why I thought that one was very odd, that it's gone up and down depending upon, and it could be, like you're saying, when they collect it versus actually shipping it out. So sometimes that kind of gets lost in the shuffle too sometimes. Okay, let's move on to some of the expenditures on page 5. And again, I tried to keep the same layout that we did last year. Tried to make sure I kept the district-wide expenses separated from the grants, the local, state, and federal grants. And you can see our budget for the district-wide portion in the general fund is sitting at $99,338,205.94. And you can kind of see where we have encumbered, what we've spent, and what our balance is. Now, the total encumbered and total expense together, we're at $97,896,402.06, which means that we have roughly either encumbered or spent 98.55% of the budget at this moment in time. The final column over there is how much actual cash money has been spent. Okay? We've spent 43% of the budget, and we've collected 55% of our budget. Because if you'll remember, in January and February is the best months of a school year is when we've collected our ad valorem. So right now, revenue-wise, we're doing well. And actually, budget-wise, I still think we're doing quite well also. If the carryover still holds to being, what was it, $1.2 million. So it's still looking good on that side. Now, the grants, we talked about that before a little bit. Now, you'll notice that they have actually spent 86% of their budget. Actual cash money leaving is 37%, but we've only collected 26% of their money. Again, because we have to claim for their money, and we've got a little bit of a conversation going on with our Title I people as to Normally, you should only be about a month behind on the collections. We're a little bit behind on the Title I because of some discrepancies, but I think we've got those all cleared up now, so those revenues should come back in and be more in line with each other to where you're only about a month behind on collecting them. But again, overall, the general fund, we've spent about 42% of it, and we've collected 51%. So all in all, they're pretty much balancing out each other. Okay? Now, the next 2 pages actually shows you the detailed lines of that information. Page 6 is actually the project numbers that make up the district's expenses, and page 7 are all the federal programs. If y'all had any questions about any of those, I'd be happy to answer those, but in total, I think all of them are working out well. Okay? All right. Now let's talk a little bit about the levy. And again, I did the same thing. I kept the district-wide separated from the federal grant. And if you'll recall, in the levy, the federal grant is Freedom Elementary. Now, it is only the portion of it that is the federal grant. The other portion of it, our match, is someplace else. So you always have to go back to in order to put them back together, you have to go someplace else because it's sitting at 42 million, really not 36. But you're only seeing one part of it here, okay? So the levy, at this point, you can see our budget at $2.9 million. We've actually expended 62% of it right now. What's actually cash money that is left is 28% of it, and we are actually, the collections, we're at 87% of our collections in the levy, which is pretty awesome, I think, at this point. Now, the federal grant, again, Freedom, at $36 million, we've encumbered and expended together, we've obligated 98% of it, but what we've actually spent out, cash money, is only about 14%, and we've only collected or been reimbursed for only 6% of it. You can see the difference between, in column C, that we've actually paid out $4.9 million, and we've only received $2.3. We did have a little bit of delay in receiving the money back from the government, but we have now received 3 of the payments, so we're back on target. There was some delay in the paperwork getting up to the federal government and getting back to our bank, and then they were going to our old bank, not our new bank. So I think we've got some of those things lined up now. So again, at first we were told that it would take about a 10 to 15-day process for each of the monthly payments to be reimbursed to us. Actually, it's taking about a 30-day window. 10 days at every one of their departments at the Department of, yeah. So it's taking about a month for every payment for us to get back. So we are short one payment every time this happens. So it's actually a pretty good process going on right now. I think we're in good shape in the levy. Overall, you can see that the levy has expended 14% of it, and our revenue is at 12%. Again, the difference being the money from Freedom that we're short on that. But all in all, we're doing well. And again, page 9 and then page 10 are the actual details of those same figures, if you had any other questions about those. All in all, I think our projections are online with the exception of the one revenue line item. Any questions?
That's good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Diane, can you let us know about that
Yes,
land?
I certainly will.
I'd like to know what their explanation is.
I can do that. Okay, thanks.
Item C, this information item, update for the Reading Sufficiency Act, third grade reading promotion. And didn't have anybody come in because not anything new's happened since last month. Did go to a legislative conference yesterday and heard from both the Senate and the House side. And 2 issues have come to them, and they have indicated a willingness to do some tweaking, modifications to the rule, and we sincerely hope they do. One is on the special education side. The author of the bill indicated that he never intended for special ed students to be under the exact same without any modifications, which is also, kind of a contradiction between the federal law on the very same thing. The other is in the fact that we recently received information from the State Department that they consider a T1 as one of the allowances, but pre-K is currently not allowed as one of the 6 allowances because pre-K is not considered as a grade. So if you were held back in pre-K, you would still have to be held back again. That's another one of the tweaks that they indicated needs to happen to the law to make it fair. And again, the author of the bill is there, said our intention was never for those two things to happen, so we're going to address them early. Hopefully both those things happen, but I think regardless, that is a sign that the efforts of educators to inform our legislators about the realities of what's going on has really shown some progress. So I'm proud of our staff and our teachers for being proactive. Had 6 of our elementary principals there with me. That was very good, very active, very proactive, and I think we've got a great staff on that, taking care of business. So any questions about that? Okay, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda at this time?
I need to pull the item that is in reference to Eisenhower Middle School PTSA. I serve on that board, so I'd like to abstain from that one item and pull it out for separate vote.
Okay.
Page 79, did you say? Yeah. Yes. I move for approval for the balance of the consent agenda.
Second. Call roll, please.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Ms. Romeo?
Yes.
Dr. Schuh? Mr. Jester?
Yes. Okay, on page 79, we have a request for approval for sanctioning for Lawton High School Soccer Booster Club. Is that the one?
No, it's actually Eisenhower Middle School PTSA.
It is that one, it's just underneath there.
I just need to
Move
abstain
probate
from that
status.
particular item. So,
Okay, do I hear a motion on that item?
Move to approve?
Second. Call roll, please.
Mr. Sharon?
Yes.
Dr. Schuh?
Yep.
Ms. John?
abstain?
Ms. Romeo?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes. Thank you.
Would you need an executive session?
Yes.
Yes, item 9, proposal for executive session.
I make a motion to move into executive session.
Second. Call roll, please.
Ms. Romeo?
Yes.
Ms. John?
Yes.
Dr. Schuh?
Yes.
Mr. Sharon? Mr. Jester?
Yes.